Hello everyone. Today I want to share with you an interesting and humorous story about the single mother, Dieuhan. Right from the early morning, Dieuhan, a single mother, along with her little son Tom, walked down the familiar path leading to her Aunt Koa's house. It had been a long time since the last time Han visited Koa, the woman who had always been willing to help her with a heart full of love and generosity. Today, Han was very excited to finally return to visit Koa, to chat and share warm moments. When they arrived at Koa's gate, Han's heart suddenly raced. As soon as Koa saw them, she hurriedly ran out with a bright smile. "Where have you been?" "I haven't seen you for a while?" Koa asked with a voice full of concern. Han smiled and replied, "I just went to Vinlong to find my biological parents. It's been a long time, and today I finally have the chance to come visit you." Koa's face softened, her eyes filled with understanding. "You've been gone for so long. I hope everything went smoothly." They chatted for a while before heading inside the house. At this moment, a man around 30 years old was sitting at the table. He smiled and greeted Han. She was a bit surprised and greeted him back, unsure of who he was. After sitting down, Han took out a small gift, a bag of tea she had bought the day before. She knew that Koa often suffered from joint pain and thought this gift might help her feel better. Han handed the tea bag to Koa, and she looked at it with surprise. "You really know how to choose a gift?" Koa exclaimed, her eyes filled with astonishment. "How did you know I had joint pain and bought this?" Han smiled lightly. "I remember you often suffer from joint pain, so I bought this for you to try." Koa was touched, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You're so thoughtful." "Thank you so much, Han. You always think of others." Han felt warmth in her heart at Koa's words. Koa had always been a strong support for her ever since they met many years ago. They had shared countless stories, laughter, and even tears. But Koa's love and kindness were always what made Han feel the most. Han was a bit surprised when she saw an unfamiliar man sitting in the house, so she turned to ask, "Aunt Koa, who is this?" Koa smiled and explained, Let me introduce you. This is my adopted son, Tho. He just came back from Saigon. He's been working there for a long time, but it's been ages since he came back to visit me." Tho looked up, gave a bright smile, and greeted Han. "Hello. I've heard a lot about you from my mom." The way he smiled was very friendly, which made Han feel a bit more at ease. Koa continued, "My son is very diligent, always focused on his work and making money, but he refuses to get married or have children. Just look at him, always working nonstop, but when it comes to relationships, he doesn't seem to make any progress." Koa said this with a tone of regret. She looked at Tho, then turned back to Han and asked, "How was your trip to Vinlong? Was everything smooth? Tell me about it." Han smiled, looked at her, and gently replied, "Yes, I found out that my parents are still alive, so I went to Vinlong to look for them. But I don't know if they're still there because I'm not sure where I can find them. But at least I know I'm not the only one in this world." She sighed slightly before continuing. "I met an old friend of my father's, and he gave me my father's address. But I'm still not sure if my parents still live there. I haven't been able to find them yet." Koa listened carefully, her eyes full of sympathy. "It's good to know your parents are still alive, dear. But look at Tho here. I've raised him since he was a child. He grew up, moved to Saigon for work, and never came back to visit me. I called him many times, but he still didn't come. And when it comes to marriage, he refuses to get married. I'm really worried about him," Koa said, looking at Tho with concern. Tho heard this, and his face turned slightly pale, as if he were in an awkward situation. "Mom, Why are you talking about me to someone else like that? He said, a bit embarrassed. Koa turned to Tho, smiled gently, but her voice was firm. Who's someone else? Han isn't an outsider. I'm just thinking about helping both of you work together, helping each other grow. She finished her sentence, then looked at Han with a trusting gaze. Tho, feeling uncomfortable, didn't want to continue the conversation. He stood up and quietly walked to his room without saying anything more. Han watched him leave, sensing an unspoken tension, but she wasn't too surprised by the situation. Perhaps Tho had gotten used to his mother, always worrying about him and trying to connect him with everyone around, even if he wasn't ready for it. Koa looked at her son leaving, then turned back to Han and gave a soft smile. Han felt a bit surprised by Koa's words and quickly responded, "You can't be serious. Who would want to love a single mother like me? I still have to take care of my little child." She smiled lightly, but inside, she felt a bit worried. "I don't think I'll find anyone, Aunt." Koa looked at Han and smiled softly. "Don't think like that. You're charming. I completely agree with you." Before Han could think more, Koa switched to another topic. "By the way, what's going on with you, Dan and Than? Is there something between you all?" Koa's question was full of concern, as if she had been paying attention to everything around Han for a long time. Han sighed lightly and replied, "We're just friends, Aunt." Koa furrowed her brows and looked into Han's eyes, continuing, "I'm not sure about Than, but I think Dan really likes you." Koa seemed very serious when talking about this, and Han could sense her deep concern. Han smiled and gently replied, "I've already told him. We're just friends. Please don't worry." Koa looked at Han for a while, as if she had thought of something, then suddenly said, "What if Tho is here now? You two should get to know each other." Koa's words were unexpected, but they were full of encouragement. She felt that the time had come and wanted things to unfold the way she hoped. Han was stunned and felt a bit awkward. "No, Aunt, that's not a good idea," she quickly replied. She felt uncomfortable being put in this situation, especially when she wasn't ready to open up to anyone. "Tho and I aren't a good match." Before she could finish her sentence, Tho suddenly interrupted the conversation, his voice a bit sharp. "She's right, Mom. We're not a good match." He shook his head, looking slightly frustrated. Tho always felt uncomfortable with forced relationships, and he didn't want to be put in a situation he hadn't chosen. Koa didn't seem flustered at all, responding calmly, "If you want me to invest in you, then bring your wife home for me. I'm not forcing you, but let me try setting you two up just once." She smiled lightly, then stood up. "I'm going to the kitchen to cook. You two sit and talk." And with that, Koa left, leaving Han and Tho in a private space together. They sat in silence while Koa went to the kitchen to prepare the meal. A while later, Tho suddenly stood up, breaking the silence that had filled the room. "Come out here with me for a minute. I need to talk to you," he said. Han was a bit surprised, not understanding why Tho wanted to have a private conversation with her. She felt a little uneasy, but still stepped towards the door. "Yes, what do you want to talk to me about?" Han asked carefully, feeling anxious about the conversation that was about to unfold. Tho looked at her for a moment, then suddenly spoke, his voice sounding irritated. "Hey, do you hear me clearly? Don't call me brother anymore." Han froze, confused. "Call me Trin. Trin Nu, a feminine name. Got it?" Han couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What? What do you mean? Call you Trin?" She was astonished, unable to imagine that the person in front of her could say something like that. "Keep your voice down. My mom might hear you now." Seeing that Han was stunned, Tho continued explaining, though his tone was now completely impatient. "I don't like women, so don't even think about having a chance with me. But right now, I need your help with something." Han stood frozen, unsure of what to do. "What is it? Just tell me," she replied softly, hoping it wasn't something too complicated. Tho looked at her for a moment, then got straight to the point. "I want to open a coffee shop in Saigon. The condition is, I need to have a girlfriend. Can you pretend to be my girlfriend?" Han's eyes widened, unable to believe what she had just heard. "What? You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" She completely disagreed with this proposal, feeling that it was something she could not accept. "No, I can't do that. It's like lying to Aunt Koa." Han's words were filled with opposition, but Tho didn't seem to care much. She couldn't understand why he thought such a deception could be easily carried out, especially when Koa was someone very important to her. Just then, Koa's voice called out from inside the house. Perhaps she had heard the two of them arguing loudly and came out to check. "What are you two doing? Why is it so noisy?" When Tho saw his mother coming out, he quickly turned to Han, trying to hide the displeasure on his face. "Oh, she wants to leave," Tho said, his tone indifferent, as if he didn't want to continue the conversation any longer. Han stood still for a moment, feeling confused. "Yes, I have things to do at home, so I need to go," she replied, trying to remain calm. She felt uncomfortable being in this situation, but there was nothing more she could do except refuse Tho's proposal and leave quickly. Kwa looked at Han, then smiled, though there was a hint of regret in her eyes. "You little one, I'm upset now, cooking all the food and you're leaving. But well, if you have something to do, you can go, it's not too late," she said gently, not reproaching her. Han knew that Kwa always worried and wanted the best for her, but things didn't always go as hoped. There were no goodbyes, no apologies or explanations, only a door opening, marking the end of their meeting. Han stepped through the door, then turned to look at Tho one more time. Her gaze was filled with a momentary confusion, but it quickly returned to silence. The door closed behind Han, but in her heart, there were still many unanswered questions. Why had things turned out this way? Why did Tho behave like that? Han didn't know if she could trust the people around her anymore, as relationships were continuously tested by demands and unforeseen confusion.
Hân đứng im một lúc, cảm thấy bối rối. Cô cố gắng giữ bình tĩnh, cảm thấy không thoải mái khi rơi vào tình huống này, nhưng không thể làm gì hơn ngoài việc từ chối lời đề nghị của Thọ và nhanh chóng rời đi. Khoa nhìn Hân rồi mỉm cười, nhưng vẫn không giấu một chút gì đó tiếc nuối trong mắt. Bà với giọng điệu nhẹ nhàng, không hề trách móc. Cô biết rằng Khoa luôn lo lắng và muốn tốt cho cô, nhưng mọi chuyện không phải lúc nào cũng như mong muốn. Không một lời chúc, không có những lời xin lỗi hay giải thích, chỉ có một cánh cửa được mở ra như một dấu chấm hết cho cuộc gặp gỡ này. Hân bước qua ngưỡng cửa rồi quay lại nhìn Thọ một lần nữa. Ánh mắt cô thoáng một chút khó hiểu, nhưng nhanh chóng trở lại với sự im lặng. Cánh cửa khép lại phía sau Hân, nhưng trong lòng cô vẫn còn nhiều chuyện, nhiều câu hỏi chưa lời đáp. Tại sao mọi chuyện lại trở nên như vậy? Tại sao Thọ lại làm như vậy? Hân không biết liệu mình có thể tin tưởng vào những người xung quanh nữa hay không, khi mà những mối quan hệ cứ liên tục bị thử thách bởi những yêu cầu và sự bối rối không lường trước.